to In the Library with Marsha and not Adrian. Adrian is on a train right now and he is heading to our ALA, American Library Association conference in Chicago. By the time you're listening to this, he'll have returned. So maybe next week we'll talk about his trip. I do have a very special guest with me today. I have Mr. Scott Earl, and I will let you do your introductions. You want to introduce yourself and your title and how we know each other?
I am Scott Earl, as she said, and I work at Bedford Senior High School. I've been there since 1999. I have taught essentially every English class there is in the school, but currently teach AP Literature and English 12 there.
That's awesome. He is definitely a favorite teacher, not just of mine, but of the students for sure. And we've done a lot of partnerships over the years at Bedford with assorted and various English classes that you have. You've been instrumental in walking them over to the library or getting materials to them and having me come speak to at your meetings after school. So it's been wonderful. We've had this great time. But we're recording today from Ellis, the Ellis Library and Reference Center, because Scott has made this trip to Monroe to visit me and see my new, now that you're off for summer. I don't know, are you off like in the summer? What do you do? What's your summer look like?
I coach cross country. So basically we practice every morning.
All through the summer?
During the weekdays, all through the summer, except for there's a dead week in the middle.
In July?
In July,
okay.
First week of July. But essentially most of the summer we get together and do runs. So other than that, I am hot on the tail of our honey-do list at home and making sure those things get done. And we're putting in all new windows.
Oh, wow.
So it's ribbon, in fact. But
no, it is though. That's
yeah. So we've got a lot of prep work to do. We're actually staining all the trim work so that they can just put it in and it'll match what we have. So.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So all kinds of projects. I always wondered that there's a lot of teachers who are either, oh, I'm teaching summer school or I'm doing STEM camp, you're coaching. So I feel like teachers are never really off. It's not as glamorous as it looks sometimes, where it's not, where you're like, oh yeah, you get weekends and summers off, but
no, not really. And then I have the summer work for the AP Lit kids that I look in on. So they're working on that right now, where they're spending a third of the summer on short stories, a third of the summer on poetry, and a third on a novel. So I'm going to be looking at their comments online. And
okay, yeah. So are you missing your run right now with the kids? What's going on with this? I didn't even think about that.
Yes.
Did you cancel it because of the rain?
No, we don't cancel because of rain.
You do.
No.
I didn't know. I don't know the rules.
They can run on their own. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I put it out there and that's fine.
I see. Well, you run. You're a runner, obviously, right? So you run with them, or you?
I run behind them now that I'm old. So
yeah.
That's something that I've enjoyed, though. It's kept me in shape all these years, so that's good.
Yeah, no, that's great. Anyone who knows me knows I'm the farthest thing from a runner. So I have a huge respect for that. And I love people that run. Running and crying are two things I hate to do. People are like, oh, I had a good run or a good cry. And running and crying do the same thing for me. They give me a pounding headache. They just make me feel like miserable. I'm not one of those people that feels good after a run. I feel like horrible after a run.
I'm going to have to try that run cry.
I don't even mean at the same time. I just mean those are two things that are, when people say I had a good cry and a good run, those are not good things for me. I'm miserable. So I really have a great respect for runners because that's never been a thing I can do. I would like to. I have friends that run and they want me to run with them, and I'll ride my bike alongside you, but I am not a runner. So, so I have a great appreciation for that. And a lot of times I don't know where all you practice for cross country, but a lot of times they'll run the trails behind the Bedford Library, around the Bedford Library. We see the runners from the library a lot.
Yeah, we typically run there when we're at home. We'll start this next week going down to Toledo, going to Wildwood Park there. They've got a lot of nice trails for running. So
yeah, so you do kind of travel when you run. I knew you just mentioned Munson Park this morning too. We talked about how we're really close to Munson Park here at Ellis, and you mentioned meeting there too.
Yeah, we have cross-country meets there, a couple of them usually. Okay.
Yeah, so you do run all over then. But I have seen some runners. I know the junior high too. They run through. Sometimes they'll run through the library. Yes. Like they'll come up the back and they'll run through the building. So that's always fun in the summer to see the kids. So I don't have Adrian with me today. He's very clever and very funny, and I'm not. So he always asks these really, really deep questions. Like he'll ask, like, what's your favorite pizza topping, or what, he asked these really funny things. And since we talked about maybe going to breakfast, I'm going to ask, what's your favorite breakfast item? Let's talk about breakfast. What do you order usually?
My wife makes fun of me because I still remember this breakfast from one of our vacations down in Santa Fe, New Mexico, where it was kind of a local little bed and breakfast, and they had a Southwestern breakfast, and that was by far my favorite. It had some poached eggs and some salsa, I think it was a brioche, but it was just a delicious breakfast, and I ordered it every day we were there.
Where did you say you were? Were you
Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Oh, yes, yeah. So in the South, getting a South.
Southwestern, yeah, it was really good.
So getting a Southwest breakfast up here does not have the same feel as getting a Southwest breakfast in the South.
No, it was delicious, and it was just the right amount. It was just perfect breakfast. So I always bring it up whenever we're talking about breakfast.
I love that. That's funny. Yeah. So he'll come in with these great questions that always throw people off guard. And I'm not clever like he is. So you're just getting the Marsha version today. So yeah, we were talking to you a little bit. I gave the tour and we were talking a little bit about the reference center up here. We're actually recording this from upstairs at the Ellis Reference, and we're talking about doing, we work the fair booth across the street, and we're talking about doing sort of a giveaway where you can come upstairs. I've been letting everyone I know that this is where I'm at. They've called it the Marsha Parade. They've been seeing a lot of the Marsha Parade up here, and we're hoping to give away books so that people will actually just come upstairs. We don't want anyone to forget that we are located upstairs here. I have a lot of people that are in my friends and family who have said they've been to this library, but they've never been upstairs because they just come in and grab the books or use the computers, pick up holds, and they've never really come back to come upstairs. So I'm hoping to broadcast that and bring everybody up here. So
that's a beautiful facility. It's really large. I mean, I can't think of another library in this county, or I'm from Lenawee County, that's got a second floor like this. It's very nice. And you've got the overlook of the River Raisin out there. It's just a beautiful place and very large facility here.
It is. I do. I love that too. I love that our second floor is in use. Our Dorsch Library, which is from Dr. Dorsch, which is downtown by the courthouse in Long Acre Square, that also has an upstairs. It was Dr. Dorsch's home/hospital facility. It even has like a kind of a creepy basement where we filmed zombie prom commercials, but their upstairs is also in use. It's obviously much smaller because it was a home/hospital, but it's not as big as this facility. They did expand on this and added that expansion out towards the river, but it is the windows make it lovely that you can see the river from really anywhere on the back side of the building, including upstairs. We're actually looking you can't really see it where you're at, but we're looking at the river from where we are. We are doing our summer reading right now is in full swing. All together now is our theme, and we have summer reading for all ages. I know specifically at the Bedford branch, they're doing adult summer reading where you can drop in, you write a recommendation, drop in a ticket, enter a drawing to get free books, and then a big prize at the end. The teens work the same way. It's across the county. You can just come in and you just sign up for summer reading for no matter what your age is. For the little kids, we really have something every day, almost at every branch. I always say go to mymcls.com, go ahead and look up the branch that's close to you, or library hop. I mean, if you have kids that you're home with all day, I mean, maybe you go to come to Ellis in the morning and Bedford in the afternoon or whatever. Like you could really go to your kids, take your kids somewhere every day. And the library system is partnering with the YMCA this year to offer free lunches. Anyone 18 and younger, any age, if they might need a lunch, if they're just here, you just register for them and you get a free lunch in between. So I know here specifically at the Ellis Library and Reference Center, we're doing morning programming, free lunch, and then afternoon programming, whether it's Lego builds or movies or whatever. So we're kind of doing morning and afternoon programming centered around lunches. So really like the kids could stay all day if they want to. So we just ask that you register so we know how many to pick up, things like that. So the YMCA is providing free lunches all summer long.
That's like a free babysitting service.
Yeah, really.
That's when I was young, it used to be a vacation Bible school. I think we were in every religion while I was growing up because my parents would drop me out there.
Vacation Bible school hopped, yeah. So library in the morning, Bible school at night.
That's right.
But it is, I would say that they really are geared towards, I was showing you this morning, kind of, we're doing a lot of, there's an initiative, 1,000 hours outside, where they're promoting putting down the screens and spending more time outside, which is, I don't have to tell you that you're running outside every day, but and so a lot of our programs are geared toward that. We have literacy on the lawn, 1,000 hours outside. So we're doing a lot of outdoor programming too, that includes, stories outside, bubbles, crafts, paint, anything kind of fun that's happening outside. So go online, check out what interests you, what branch is close to you, and you can go ahead and go to any of them. Some of the specific programs we're doing here, computer classes. I know that's something most of the libraries offer. I know Bedford and Ellis specifically offer, their reference departments will offer computer classes at any given time. We have a paper craft club here upstairs at Ellis where you can bring your own projects to work on. So if you've got a box of, scrapbooking or things you need to get organized, or bullet journaling, anything like that. I don't know. Do you have your kids do that? I know you were doing some of the six word memoirs and other fun things. Do they do bullet journaling?
No, I'll look at that though,
Yeah,
because
look
this
into that.
year, for the first time in probably almost 10 years now, I got creative writing back.
Oh, yay.
I started that at Bedford, and then got bogged down with other classes and couldn't fit it in my schedule. So this year I get that back. I'm very excited about that.
It's wonderful. Yeah. So if you're tuning in, kids, sign up. Do you already have your classes or not yet? Will they know by next year?
They should know.
They should already know by now. That's what I thought. Yeah. So bullet journaling is something that they might be interested in. I'll send you some ideas when we're done with this. But so people come and they can spread out. We have boxes of things that have been donated. So if you are maybe working on a project and you see something really fun and cool that you want to add, you can use our supplies too. That's right up here upstairs at Ellis Reference. The Paging Through the Civil War book club is a historical book club about the Civil War that takes place downstairs. Those are on Thursday nights. On Wednesday, we have a Santa Fi fantasy science fiction book club that meets here on Wednesday evenings. So yeah, we have a lot of programs going on here at the Ellis Library and Reference Center at Bedford. They are still meeting through the summer for their genealogy club. The Harry Potter, Dumbledore's Army is still meeting. They are doing in July. I think they're doing an escape room, Harry Potter escape room.
Oh, that sounds fun.
I know. So there's just so much. I, of course, obviously didn't prepare. I have not a single flyer in front of me, and I don't have the calendar pulled up. So you're gonna have to go to the website and look up and see what's going on. What about you? Anything else you'd like to share about the library, about you teaching?
I just like library. I've always liked libraries. My mother was a second grade teacher, and one of my favorite things was while she was preparing for the next day, I would get to go down to the library and be there when the new books came in. So I would get first dibs on all the new books, and that was always pretty cool. I still remember this biography series that they had, and for some reason the biography of Harriet Tubman sticks out to me. Like, that was really intriguing to you. Probably my first foray into the slavery and the routes up to the north, and that was very intriguing to me and opened my eyes to a lot of things. But that was one of my favorite things growing up. Probably why I'm an English teacher.
Yeah, I love that. I love that your mom was too. You just haven't really escaped it.
Right. Yeah. I just went for a higher level. But she was a second grade teacher for a long time, and up in Clinton schools in Limerick County. So.
Okay. Was she always on your case kind of about your schoolwork, or were you just born a good student? Were you a good student?
I was a pretty good student until I got to high school. I just love to read. I read all the time. Yeah. I mean, I like libraries so much that my graduation party was at the Schultz Home Memorial in Blissfield.
Blissfield, right?
At our party there.
Right there on Main Street in Blissfield.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I've always loved libraries. It's a great place to come and just get engrossed in a book or whatever you're doing. Do a project here on my computer or whatever. That's the latest thing. A good quiet spot to do that and be surrounded by books. It's like a giant hug from literature.
I know. I love it too. I always say it's a little bit ruined for us when you work in a library, because you always kind of are either looking for ideas or you have something to work on. But I also, whenever we're on vacation, I drag, my husband into whatever libraries there. I love libraries too, just like you. I love them. What are you reading now? Since you love to read, you still love to read, or do you get time to read?
No, I do. I usually have about 3 books going at the same time.
Me too. Like one up in my nightstand, one downstairs. I have them all over, listening to them.
Braiding Sweetgrass is what I'm reading right now. That's an interesting book of like Native American kind of folklore-ish stuff woven into this woman's life. It's nonfiction, and she's just sharing some of her. I think she's from the Ojibwa tribe.
Okay.
Related to their Kimmerer is the name, but it's really little short stories kind of from her life along the way that weave in some of that Indian culture in there, which is really very cool. And it's very good writing too. It almost reads like fiction. It's very well done. So I've been enjoying that. And I'm the kind of reader I'm a slow reader. Like, I like to chew on things and set the book down and walk away and think about things. So it takes me a long time to get through a book, especially when I'm doing 3 at a time.
Right.
But they're usually very different. Like I have a nonfiction one going and a fiction one going, and something else that intrigues me. And so I don't really get them mixed up or anything.
Yeah. Sometimes I do get them mixed up. That's when you have two going on at the same time, I'll be like, wait, what is happening? And then I remember that's the other book that so it depends on where I am. I frequently have multiple books going, or I listen to them on Hoopla on my drive now. I'll listen to audiobooks. But yeah, so you like both nonfiction and fiction. You read a little bit of both.
Right. I think in the last few years, I started the AP language program at Bedford. And so that kind of pushed me into nonfiction where I wasn't used to going. And there's a lot of good stuff out there. I was surprised. So being immersed in literature for so long, kind of ignored nonfiction, but there's some really good stuff out there. So I've been enjoying discovering a lot of things that probably a lot of people have known about for a while, but I'm just learning. So that's great.
I recently stumbled into that too. I started with, reading biographies because they read a little bit like fiction. So I always used to say, well, I only like nonfiction that reads like fiction. I don't want it to read like a textbook like I'm in school. So I had that same kind of stigma. However, I have also found that if it's a subject that you're interested in, or, if it's something, I'm also reading more nonfiction now than I ever did. I didn't really like nonfiction when I was younger either.
Yeah. I read Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil.
Oh, yeah.
And I was shocked to find out that it was nonfiction when I was done.
Right.
It just read like a novel. It was very, very well done. So
yeah. So that is, if you can find those little crossover ones, I think that's a good stepping stone to get into nonfiction. And then of course, and now that we're up here and pretty much everything I'm looking through up here is nonfiction now, I'm growing to, like you said, I'm growing to kind of love it and find out interesting facts that I didn't know, before that.
I've always been, and what I've been interested in and trying to get going is guys, for some reason, when they're in high school, they don't like to read.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how many times we've done a book, because I try to choose books that will be of high interest to them. And they will be like maybe a Vietnam War era book or something that they will get into. They like those kind of books, and they'll say, this is the first book I've read since elementary school. And that's heartbreaking on one end, but on the other end, I'm glad that maybe I've nudged them back into reading stuff. So when we come over to the library and you've given us books, those are all like self-selected books for them. So they're high interest and they're more apt to read those. And they've done a nice job. We had the one boy a couple of years ago that read that book, It.
Yeah, Stephen King's It. Yes, and he
massive. And
yeah,
he finished it. He was so proud of himself.
And he was not a reader prior.
Not a reader. Yeah. No, but he was committed. In fact, his book fell apart on the airplane on spring break. And Marsha was kind enough to get him another copy so he could finish up. He was so devastated that it fell apart. I think he thought the police were going to come.
The library police. Yeah, we just love that they love reading. I was going to say that about your interest surveys. I love that you do that, where you pull them and see what they're interested in, and that really helps us to know. I should send you this other thing. There's another teacher who sent me from Whiteford School. She's really great too. She sent me kind of get to know you, and it talks about your interests in general, not just your reading interests. Like, what do you watch on TV? Do you have any pets? And then we kind of studied those, and then we sort of picked out the perfect book. And that's sort of what you do too, where you send these interest surveys. So we do try to pick custom books for them. And there is when you said that about guys, there's a whole thing on that now too. There's that Guys Read series. They're really trying to help. My husband's in that boat. He wants to never read a book, or, my brothers. I always say, you said nudge them. That was a great kind word. I like to say trick them. We try to trick them into reading. And I always tell kids, if you don't like to read, or not just kids, if you don't like to read, you just haven't read the right book yet, because for him, it was It. Right. And now he knows that he can read and he can love a book like that. So
they're not going to love reading Shakespeare. They're just not.
Right.
I feel, that's going to be for someone who wants to go into the English literature field, but they will love reading those other novels, the sports books and those kinds of things that are high interest. And we had guys, I think, got books on auto mechanics because that's what they were going into, and they were interested in finding out more stuff about that. So I think that's key too. I think maybe I don't want to condemn schools, but I think maybe we've been on the wrong path for many years in terms of you're all going to read this same book, and it reads like reading cement, but you're going to read it.
Right. And because we always have, because it's a classic.
Exactly.
I feel the same way. I mean, I didn't mind reading all through school because I'm a reader like you, and I've always been. But I do think being told to read for school and then picking up something that's specific to you are two totally different things. So I always hope to turn people on to that. That's one thing I love about your classes is you generally do have something that they read to discuss, but then you also have something for their own interest and specifically geared towards them. So
right. And I mean, study after study after study shows the more you read, the better you write.
Yeah.
Because you're used to seeing good stuff. And so your brain picks that up as you're reading. So it's tricking them into writing as well.
Tricking them into reading, tricking them into writing. And I do think I don't want to be that old curmudgeon. We were just talking about our age before we started recording this, and I don't want to be that old, but in today's world of quick means and quick snippets, people are reading less and less. Right. So I think it's important and vital to continue to base, reading and encourage that.
Right. Yeah. That sustained reading is key. And that's really, I start out the year with just 10 minutes, 10 minutes every single day, 10 minutes you're going to read in that book. And then we build that up to 20 minutes. I mean, that's a good build up. I think that's a good amount of time for kids to read for 20 minutes, nothing else going on. And what ends up happening by the end of the year is the 20 minutes will be up and they'll be disappointed and questioning my timing skills. Yes. That wasn't 20 minutes.
Or it ends on a chapter and they want to keep reading,
right,
the end of a chapter that tricks them into continue to read. So I love that concept. I actually just read yesterday, and I thought about maybe starting that up here too. It was called a silent book club. And what they do is they read, or not, they don't read, they get together. It's like a 2-hour book club and they talk and discuss and meet, have snacks. I'm all about the snacks. So they'll talk for the first half hour. They read for an hour and then talk at the end. So really everyone just brings their book. It's all based on reader's advisory. And it's really just designated time to read, kind of like what you're doing in the classroom. And how many of us say that? I don't have time to read. I don't have time to read. But if you're coming to a book club that's specifically setting aside time to read, what a better thing to do at the library. I loved that idea. I think it was the Toledo Public Library was doing that, but they were maybe going somewhere. But I loved that. I loved that they're setting aside time to read at a book club.
That's very cool. Yeah. It is hard to find time or make time in your schedule to get some reading done. I mean, if you do it at bedtime, a lot of people are asleep by the time they're done with the first page.
Right, right.
And so they're not making any headway there. Conversely, sometimes it's so engaging you don't get as much sleep as you planned for.
Sure. For me, it's scared. I like to read a lot of horror books, so for me, I'm like, or I always said I feel like every chapter by design ends on a cliffhanger. So then I have found that I have to stop like mid chapter, because if I get to the end of a chapter, or books with short chapters, they will short chapter me all the way through it. I'll just finish it. I'll just stay up and finish it because I have to hear how it ends. So.
Yeah, I think for me as an instructor, I think part of me is damage control or fixing things that have been damaged in terms of reading, like their desire to read. Like for poetry, for example, I mean, how long does it take to read a poem? A minute, maybe. Right. And they're so afraid of poems, so I force them to read poems. I read them to them.
Like no, I know.
And get them to feel, and we talk about it. It's not as, you don't have to figure out every little nuance of a poem. Just read the poem and enjoy it for what it is. And that's been fun. And it's the same situation. We're not going to read a Shakespeare sonnet every day. We're going to read more modern stuff that they can attach to. I think that's the key. That's been missing a lot in school. If you look through a textbook, most of those poems in there deal with adult things. I mean, they don't deal with teen things and things that they could relate to. So I think that's a switch that education, a lot of people in education, I'm thinking like Penny Kittle, for instance, is really pushing towards that kind of idea of modernizing choice and talking. So that's where the library, the Bedford Branch Library in particular, Marsha, has been very instrumental in getting me books for those kids. And I think it's made, we're not fixing every kid, but a lot of those kids haven't read, and they, I hear time and time again how I really like reading this book. That's worth it. That's not something they're going to be tested on, but it will help their testing once they get to that, because they're used to reading again. So, and
it feels like a win for us, right? When we get the joy when they discover a book that they love to read. I do too. I love when they come back and want to talk about the book that I suggested or that you picked for them. It's really fun to just have those conversations with them.
And they do enjoy Marsha, because they always, when we go, because like I said, I teach seniors, and we go over there and they probably haven't been to the library since they were in like junior high. And then they'll remember Marsha. Oh, that's Marsha. We love Marsha. So
You bring them back in. It's full circle.
so it was good. I mean, and that is good because then oh yeah, I remember I used to love the library. Why don't I let you
Why
know?
am I not still going? I know, but and you said it, even as adults, like we don't make the time, and there's so many other things. There's sports, and I just think there's so much going on in the lives that people, aren't necessarily visiting the library or taking the time to read. So it's really important that you are instilling that in them.
Yeah, I think it's an important part of life because it's a good time to just quiet your brain where you're not thinking about all these million things that you're trying to do while you're multitasking every day. So you can just sit there and this is all I'm doing is reading. That's it.
Yes.
In a quiet spot, reading a book, immersing myself in the story. And I think that's really good for the brain. I think honestly, I think it's good for mental health. I think it's good for a lot of things. And so to get those kids back into that, as they're leaving high school and seniors, so that hopefully they'll be able to carry that on and just the things they're interested in because they're shocked that I let them.
Right.
You're going to be able. I can read this
and read whatever I want.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do feel like they feel a little bit like they're getting away with something, or like they're daring you to let them read that. And I love that you're like, no, your choice. So it's great to, like you said, even I don't want to say but repair manuals. And I mean, those are the things that people come here for. They're coming here for repair manuals or things like that. So I think that's an important skill and a skill set for the students as well to even know how to use a manual anymore. So
definitely.
So really books of all kinds for sure. Well, is there anything else that you want to share then, or?
No, I just thanks to Marsha and the Monroe County Library System for being supportive of those kinds of things with not just my classroom, but many classrooms throughout the county, because it is essential, I think, that every student gets a chance to read things that they are interested in reading, that they get a chance to become familiar with and comfortable in the library setting, because that is there for their life. And whenever they choose to come back to it, it's there for them. So
we always kind of joke around here that kids will come here for story times and then they don't come back until they have kids of their own. It feels like it's a big, that was the gap I was trying to bridge with sixth grade and high school, with the classes, because it is a lot of, I went to story time when I was a kid and now I'm bringing my kid to story time. There's not a lot of in between there. So we're really, and plus I feel like libraries have changed so much. There's something for everyone. So I always like to tell people that, do you know we have consumer reports? Do we know? Because people who curmudgeonly are like, I don't read. Well, there's a lot more to libraries now. So I really think if you haven't been to a library lately, you should definitely check it out, whether you go through the doors or just go to our website online, because I think people would be so surprised to know we have stuff that they didn't know they could access, like subscriptions to newspapers, like a lot of those, people aren't getting those anymore. They can come here and get them. So I really think it's important that people who, maybe don't use the library a lot, at least visit it to see what's there for them.
Yeah, it's a very important part of the community, that's for sure. And I'm thankful for our community having such a great system. So,
well, thank you. And thank you so much for being here today. And I look forward to continuing to work with you, maybe a little bit from a distance, but I will definitely be in touch. And
I'll just come sit by the river and wave at you.
I'll look at you out the window. I'll be like, oh, Scott's here again. And so, this has been In the Library with Marsha and not Adrian today, but we will be back. He will be back again next week and tell us all about his his conference trip to ALA. Thank you for listening.